1, 2, 3, let's go!
Boo! Welcome back to another spooky episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less traditional. Sorry, I'm trying to do like a vampire voice, and I think I don't know what the accent was. It didn't land. I know it didn't land, but I was trying my best because this is the episode coming out right before Halloween, if you're listening to it when it debuts live. So this episode comes out on a Wednesday. I think Halloween's not until like next Tuesday or something like that, but this is as close as it gets. And so just wanted to start the episode off a little bit spooky because it's just that time of year and that's just what you do. I hope you all have had a fantastic October. It's coming to the end of it. I hope it's been legit for you all so far. How has your boy been doing? How has Anthony been doing since we last spoke on last week's episode? I've been doing pretty good. This week has been very quiet and chill and just kind of steady because the girls have been with their mom all week. So I've just been able to do all of my normal things, get all of my normal stuff done. Last Friday, a few days ago, I went and I played bingo. That's kind of how I spent my Friday night. A couple of my friends invited me to go play bingo. I guess they go to like our local senior center and just play bingo every now and again. They just find that very fun and very entertaining, and they've been inviting me for a while, but you know, they don't always let kids in and stuff like that. And I like stuff like bingo and board games and stuff like that. Like, it's cool, but it's not like my favorite thing to do in the world. So I'm not like jumping up out of my seat every time somebody mentions the word bingo or mentions, hey, you want to play Uno or something like that. Like, yeah, you know, I can take it or leave it. But they've been asking me for a while. So finally, when they said, hey, can you come on this date? Can you join us just at least just one time? Can you please just show your face for once? I was able to look at the calendar, see again that the girls were with their mom this week. I didn't really have anything super legit planned. And so I was like, you know what? I'll show up and I'll play some bingo. And, you know, it was cool until it really got into it because we played like 10 games of bingo over the course of like 3 hours. And then by game, like number 5 or number 6, my competitive side really started kicking in because every time that you won a game of the round of bingo, they would hand the person who called bingo, you know, the winner, they would give them a prize. And so after like 5 times of watching people yell bingo and get a prize, I started getting, you know, I gotta get me one of those prizes. I didn't even know what the prizes were. I think they were just something like maybe candy and like a $20 gift card to Starbucks or something. But I didn't really care what the prize was. I just knew I needed a prize because I just had to win. I had to secure that W, right? And but I didn't. I went through all 10 rounds, 0 for 10, a big old goose egg on the whole entire night. Did not win one single round. I think the closest we came was, I think I was like 2 away from winning one of the rounds. Like they started off with one of the rounds being like the traditional 5 in a row, you yell bingo, but then they mixed it up and you had to do different things on your board to get the bingo. So it wasn't always the same thing. But yeah, I got close. I got this close. I was like, I just need, you know, N38 and G5 or whatever it was. And I was so close, but I didn't get the win. I didn't get the W, and I just need to stop talking about it because it's getting me worked up. It's getting me feisty. It's getting me wanting to go back there next month and get my revenge on all those elderly people who kicked my booty in bingo that night. But I just need to chill because right now we're not worried about that. We don't need to be talking about bingo for the last 5 minutes. We need to just see how you're doing. How are all of you doing this week? As I mentioned, this is coming out the week before Halloween, so I'm sure over the next 6 days, you're going to be gearing up for trick-or-treating. You're going to be gearing up for the parties that you're probably going to. You're going to be gearing up for, you know, handing out candy as the kids come door to door and they're knocking on your door, and you don't want to be the lame house that hands out apples or hands out Bible tracts or something like that. You want to make sure your reputation and your street cred is legit, and so you gotta make sure you have the good stuff ready to go. But then you go to the store, if you wait too late, and see that all the good stuff is taken, and then you're stressing out. You're like, I don't know what to do. These kids are going to come back later tonight and egg my house, and there's going to be toilet paper, and I'm going to have the reputation in the neighborhood for being the cheap house who waited till last minute. There's just so much, right? There's so much stress. There's so much weight on this time of year. It's a fun time of year. Like, I love a good Halloween season. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of things to think about and consider. So I hope as you're doing that yourself, everything's cool, everything's legit. You're able to get all the things sorted, get all your ducks in a row, but you're not pulling out your hair too much from all the stuff that you have to do. For me, so we alternate holidays, me and my girls' mom, and so it kind of depends on the year. But this year, Halloween is my quote-unquote holiday, so the girls are going to be with me for Halloween. So it's on me to get everything all aligned and to make sure that night goes without a hitch. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, I need to get their Halloween costumes, but I still have, almost 2 weeks to do that. I'm sure it'll be fine. A week and a half is plenty of time to go figure out their Halloween costume situation. But I just woke up the other day and I was like, you know what? Something tells me I probably shouldn't wait until last minute to go find their costumes, because we kind of did some scouting last week, right? They were kind of like, hey, let's go just at the store and let's just kind of do a lap around and see what ideas we can come up with when it comes to our costume situation. So we went to the store, we started taking notes, we kind of put together a little game plan as far as what they wanted to be, and at the end of that scouting trip, they each found very particular costumes that they wanted to be. So they were like, Dad, we want to be these things. We're not really interested in anything else. Like, we finally narrowed it down to these 2 particular outfits. So I was like, cool, I got it. I'll come back next week and I'll get them. But then, like I said, I woke up the other day and I was like, you know what? I probably shouldn't wait until the very last minute to go get those costumes, because they're very specific, and they have very specific sizes that each of the girls need. So I should probably get up out of bed, even though this is my one day of the week to sleep in as long as I want. I should probably go to the store and I should probably get their costumes and make sure that we're all good, because I'm sure I'll be super thankful that I did. So I did, and come to find out that they had their costumes. Thank goodness they had the costumes that the girls wanted, but they were down to like the last ones that they had. Actually, I think the ones that I got, I'll show you them. Actually, I had them. I'll show you them here in a second. But the ones that I got were the last ones of those costumes in those particular sizes. So who knows, if I would have waited one more day to go get them, probably would have been screwed. Yeah, probably wouldn't have been so much fun to have to go back to my girls and explain that whole situation. But your boy showed up, your boy pulled through, and yeah, let me show you what they wanted to be this year. All right, I guess this only applies to the people watching the video version of the podcast. So I guess shameless plug right now for our YouTube channel. We got the podcast up on YouTube, Facebook. I think Spotify has our video versions up, so there's a way you can check it out. Or social media, I'll probably clip this out and put it on social media so you can see. But yeah, here's what my one daughter wanted to be. She wanted to be Alice, so that's pretty cute. And then my other daughter wanted to be this Dracula vampire thing. I think she mostly wanted to be this so she could have fake teeth with blood. I think she kind of started with that and worked her way backwards, because I think that's ultimately what she was all about. But she got this one. So we got Alice, and then we got the Vampire Queen this year. Now, I know some of you were looking at those costumes and you probably saw the price tag and you're like, Anthony, what are you doing getting your girls cheap costumes like that? Where did you get those? Walmart? And to respond to that, I would say, yeah, I did get them from Walmart, because you know what? I'm a lowly single dad with a fixed income. What do you think I am? Some kind of Wall Street fat cat who can drop 50 G's on a Harley Quinn cosplay looking thing? No. This is what we're getting. This is as good as it get. The girls are happy. I'm happy. You can judge all you want, but this single dad did his thing. I got the costumes. I'm very proud of myself. But here's the thing, though. Maybe you all could help me. Help me in the comments of this, wherever you're seeing this clip right now. I need help. So we got Alice and we got Vampire Queen. I need to figure out what I should be for Halloween, because I always just kind of forget that part, and the girls like it when we all dress up and go do our thing. But I'm very creative. I'm very artistic. I'm very good at using my imagination for hundreds of different things. But for some reason, when it comes to coming up with Halloween costume or just costume ideas in general for anything, mental roadblocks all the time. I suck at coming up with costume ideas. So think of a good costume that would go well with Alice and Vampire Queen. Maybe thematically might make sense with both of those. Comment below, let me know. And if I see this in time before Halloween, I might just actually take you up on your suggestion. So please help a brother out with that. Or if you want, you can email me your ideas, email me your Halloween costume suggestions, or just anything that you might want to share regarding the podcast, or maybe your story as a single mom, as a single dad, whatever. We have an email specifically for all of that communication. It's just the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. Go do that. Follow all of our socials on X and TikTok and Twitter and blah, 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 blah. And then don't forget to share the podcast. Share the podcast with your friends, with your family members, with your neighbors, with your local ghouls, goblins, and demons. And let's just make sure to spread the love all around so we can build this community up into what I truly think it's going to be. So there's that. And just you yourself, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode in the future. Turn on automatic downloads on your favorite podcast hosting platform, because Halloween's coming up, but I'm going to need your help with Thanksgiving. I'm going to need your insight on Christmas. I'm going to need your insight on the holiday season in general. Your boy needs you. Yeah, your boy can't even come up with a good Halloween costume idea on his own. Please stick around so you can help me. Please subscribe so you can help me. And then last but not least, if you feel so inclined to do so, don't forget to rate the podcast 5 stars, the highest rating that you can imagine on all those platforms. So that way I know we're doing a good job here, and we'll just keep trekking along with what we're doing. But also so we can tell the algorithms out there that this is legit and we need to pass it on to more people. All right. So there's all those little plugs. Seriously, as we head into Halloween, as we head into all the stuff this holiday season, I truly do hope you all are doing well, or at least the best that you can. But I actually want to give a specific shout out this week to those that I actually call married single parents. You see, my definition of a married single parent would be somebody who's technically legally married, so they're not really like on paper a single parent because they have a husband or they have a wife and whatever, they're in a relationship, but for whatever the circumstance may be, it could be that the other spouse travels a lot or has a job that just takes them away all the time. Maybe the other spouse is just emotionally unavailable and just not super present emotionally and physically for whatever reason. Whatever it is, these married single parents are in relationships, but they essentially function as single parents because they just have to, because once again, their husband or their wife just isn't there sharing the load, sharing the weight, sharing the responsibility of raising the kids, either practically or emotionally or physically or whatever. And so they're just there doing it. And so they kind of function as a single parent in the fact that they have to get all the meals together. They have to take care of the house. They have to manage getting the kids to and from school. They're there emotionally checking in and raising and being present with the kid because the other spouse, the other parent just isn't at the home doing all of those things. So they're a married single parent in that regard. I just wanted to give a shout out to those men and women out there, because I know that could be pretty tough, because I think those circumstances get neglected, I think, because a lot of people would just assume like, oh, well, she has her husband, he has his wife. Yeah, sure, his wife travels a lot, and yeah, sure, his husband really isn't home a lot, but at least they have each other, right? and it could be tough because people could make those assumptions, but inside the context of the home, the person who is functioning as a married single parent is probably feeling just as alone and just as exhausted and just as hopeless sometimes as a traditional single parent. And I really started thinking about this week because growing up, my dad was in the military. So he served basically the whole part of the first half of my life. And so I don't remember like specifics because, again, I was super young, but I do remember like times when my dad would have to be deployed overseas to go and do his job across the ocean in these different countries. And my mom would be at home raising myself and my siblings. I have, at the time, 2 brothers and a sister plus myself, so that's 4 kids she was at home raising, and we did like some homeschool stuff for a while, and we had our social calendars, and obviously there's the day-to-day stuff that she just had to get done. And so yeah, my dad and her were together. They were married. She had a spouse, but for 6 months at a time, she was at home just doing her thing with just her and the kids. So she was a married single parent for a good stretch of time sometimes. And so I was thinking about how tough and how lonely and how difficult that must have even been for her, trying to navigate raising 4 kids when your spouse just isn't there. I guess he was at work. He was doing his job, but he couldn't practically be there to share the weight and share the burden of raising children. So if that's you out there, if you're a married single parent out there, just know that you're welcome here. We know how challenging those circumstances can be sometimes, and just know you have a community here as well, and we encourage you, we support you, and I just want to remind you, just like I do with all the other single parents out here, just keep doing the best that you can. So with that, now I kind of want to move in. I don't really know how to transition into this from that, to be honest, but I'm going to do it because it's my show and I'll figure it out somehow. But you guys know about like AI, this whole thing with AI going on? I know there's a lot of discussions when it comes to what we should and shouldn't be using it for, and the ethical lines that may or may not be crossed using AI. And there's a lot of big conversations out there. Like, heck, there's a huge writer's strike out there in Hollywood, largely based, not fully, but largely based around the conversation of artificial intelligence. And so I guess here's the transition. I figured out the transition as I was saying that. So this show, the Single Parents Podcast, is very progressive-minded podcast, right? Because we're the people whose lives turned out less than traditional. That's something I say all the time. And so we're, more progressive parenting, blah, 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 when it comes to the show. And as far as progression goes, the way that the world is progressing is more into utilizing AI and things like ChatGPT for different tools and tasks and circumstances. Like, that's just where the world is moving. Again, there's a lot of conversations to be had about the fact that the world is moving in that direction, and we're not necessarily going to have those conversations on this show because that's not this type of show, but that's just kind of where things are headed. And so I was just thinking, like, hey, the world is headed in the direction of utilizing AI for a lot of different things. How could that apply to my context? How could that apply to what I'm doing here on the Single Parents Podcast? And so I was like, you know what? Let me just start from the basics. Let me go over to ChatGPT and let me ask it just a few questions regarding single parenthood. Yes, I asked it 3 specific questions and got its responses, and I'll share those responses with you here in just a second. But the 3 questions I asked ChatGPT about single parent life. Number 1, what are questions people are asking when it comes to single parenthood? Number 2, what advice would you and AI give single parents out there? And number 3, what would you say to somebody listening to a podcast surrounded around the topic of being a single parent? I asked ChatGPT those questions, and let's kind of get into what it had to say about each one of those points. And actually, to each one of those points, it gave me quite a few points that I'm just going to read. We're just going to work through it, and maybe I'll share my thoughts on its responses as we go. But there's kind of a lot here, so let's just get into the information, and then maybe like on future episodes of the podcast, we can break down some of the specifics of things that it brought up. So for the first question that I asked ChatGPT, again, it was, what questions are people asking when it comes to single parent life? And here's what I had to say. It says, being a single parent can both be rewarding and challenging, and many people have questions and concerns when facing this role. Here are some common questions that most single parents have. Okay, I'll read them, and maybe you've had some of these questions before. Maybe I have. I don't know. Let's see. How do I cope with the emotional challenges of being a single parent? What legal rights and responsibilities do I have as a single parent? How can I balance work and parenting as a single parent? That's a good question. That's good. We'll have to definitely do an episode or two about that in the future. What financial assistance or resources are available for single parents? How do I co-parent effectively with my ex-partner, especially if we don't get along? We talk about that so much on this show and probably will more and more in the future, because that definitely is a big one. I agree with that. How can I maintain a social life and take care of myself while being a single parent? That's a good one. That's a big one. That's a big one that honestly we don't talk enough about. How do I explain to my child why one parent is not involved or around as much? Ooh, that's good. Now we're getting deep. That's a good question. What are some tips for managing the household and chores as a single parent? How can I find support and a sense of community as a single parent? What should I consider when dating or introducing a new partner to my child? We've talked about that a few times on this show. Go check out our past episodes. We definitely get into dating for sure, but that is a good question. How can I ensure my child's emotional well-being and provide a stable home environment? What legal and financial considerations should I keep in mind, such as child custody and child support? How can I plan for my child's future, including their education and other long-term needs? And that's good. That's one I actually probably should figure out sometime. Now that's good. That's a good question. What are some self-care strategies for single parents to reduce stress and maintain their own well-being? Fantastic. I love that question. Love that question. So we'll pause there for a second before I move on to the second question I asked ChatGPT. But which one of those questions really resonated with you? I think the question definitely about explaining to your child why the other parent, why their dad or why their mom may not be around as much. That's a big one, one that I haven't really thought about, because my daughters don't really ask about that, why me and their mom don't live in the same house, or why, they brought up like us being married before and they'll ask about it, but they don't bring it up a lot. But I'm sure for many of you, you've had situations, or you can already tell that you're going to have situations and conversations in the future where your little one might be asking those type of questions, or maybe they're already starting to ask those type of questions. So how do you have those type of conversations? That's good. Planning for your child's future, especially if you are a fully 100% no co-parenting situation involved single parent, like it just falls 100% on you. The other parent's just completely not in the picture. How do you plan for financial stuff in the future? How do you think about college and savings and stuff like that? And you're like, I know I should start thinking about that, but heck, it's just me and I have to work 2 jobs just to pay the bills. And so I can't really think about putting together my kids' college plan right now. So those are some big questions. But which one of those questions really resonated with you? Are there questions on this list that you've asked before, or that you've been wrestling with before? That's a good list. We're definitely going to save a lot of stuff that this brought up, doing my work for me a little bit, which I guess is kind of, the whole point with AI, right? But we'll save some of the points ChatGPT brought up, and maybe we'll turn these into full conversations on future episodes of the podcast. So one more time, make sure you're subscribed. All right, what was the second question I asked again? All right, the second question I asked was, as an AI, ChatGPT, what advice would you give a single parent out there? And this is what its response was. It says, being a single parent can be challenging, but it's also a rewarding experience. Here's some advice to help single parents navigate this journey. Number 1, seek support. Don't be afraid to ask for help from family, friends, or support groups. You don't have to do this all on your own. I love that one. I think we've kind of talked about that before on the show, but yes, it can be very easy as a single parent to get caught up in our own, I call it like Superman or Wonder Woman mentality, when we think that we have to do it all on our own. Like, well, it's just me. I have to figure it out for my kids. I have to, be a martyr for my kids. I have to go to bed completely exhausted, working my butt off for my kids, and I, blah, blah. It can be tempting to do that. There can be a lot of truth to that, but there can also be a lot of pride involved with that, especially if we can surround ourselves with friends and family members and support groups or podcasts that want to help and support and be there with you on this journey. So I really like that one. Number 2, create a support system. Kind of goes with the first point. Build a network of people you can rely on for assistance and emotional support, such as babysitters, relatives, and close friends, or again, podcasts, so subscribe. Maintain open communications. Keep the lines of communications open with your child. Let them express their feelings and concerns and be a good listener. Boom. If you haven't heard our last episode yet, episode 10, go back and listen to our conversation. Me and then my guest co-host for that week, Nicole, go back and listen to our conversation about just truly entering into a lot of different types of conversations that we have with our kids and not giving into the whole this is my way or the highway type of mentality, but instead seeing them as human beings who have thoughts and feelings, emotions, and things like that, and having legit conversations with them and not just saying, hey, this is how it needs to be done. So I like that. Number 4, prioritize self-care. Taking care of yourself is essential. Make time for self-care, including exercise, hobbies, and relaxation to reduce stress and stay healthy. Yet again, this kind of goes back to the first point, but it can be very easy just to say, well, I don't have to have time to worry about myself because I got to do this for my kids and I need to get my kids there and I need to work and and all those things, yet again, are true. But in order to do those things and do those things well for the long haul, oftentimes we do need to remember that our own selves, mentally, physically, emotionally, it just needs some care. So even if that's just taking a nap, taking a walk, watching your favorite TV show, reading a book, like those things might be things that, like, yeah, they're nice. I'll get to it when I get to it. But really prioritizing those things can definitely be healthy and should be as one of the top things that we have on our to-do list for sure. Number 6, organize and plan. Maintain a schedule and routine to help create stability for you and your child. Planning ahead can also reduce stress. That's a good one. Number 7, finances. Create a budget and manage your finances carefully. Seek out financial assistance programs or child support if applicable. Legal matters. Understand your legal rights and responsibilities as a single parent, including custody, child support, and visitation agreements. Co-parenting. If you're co-parenting with your child's other parent, strive for efficient communication and cooperation. Focus on what's best for your child. Yes. Ooh, man. It's like AIs are kind of smart sometimes, right? But we often talk about that when we do get into the whole co-parenting conversation here on the show, is that it's easy to get caught up in the drama and past feelings and getting back and staying even, and you did this, and so I get to do that. But just remember, it's what's best for your child. That's what you and hopefully the other parent truly want at the end of the day, is what's best for the child. So don't forget to constantly be asking yourself, hey, with whatever it is we need to figure out, put our own past and our own emotions aside for a second. What is truly best for your child? Number 10, make efficient use of your time. Delegate tasks when possible and prioritize activities that are most important for your child's well-being. I think I talked about this a little while ago for myself. I use the plate analogy. So I have like one plate in front of me and I can fit a steak on my plate. I can fit some mashed potatoes. I can fit some macaroni and cheese. But as I look at the size of my plate, I only have room for one more thing on my plate. So I can't have the whole rest of the buffet fit on my plate. So what's the one more thing I can fit on my plate going to be? Is it going to be the beans? Is it going to be the salad? Is it going to be the noodles? I don't know, whatever. You get the analogy, but that's how I kind of view it from my life, is that my plate is full with work. I have to work, pay the bills. Kids, obviously, gotta raise my kids. Myself, I gotta care for myself. And then, friends, family, stuff like that. So then I was like, I have like room for one more thing that I can really prioritize in my life. The other stuff I'm going to have to just say no to. Started kind of living like that a few months ago, and it's definitely been healthy, that's for sure. If you're struggling with emotional issues, consider talking to a therapist or counselor who specializes in single parenting or family issues. I like that. Therapy's good. Just, you don't have to kind of be at the end of your rope to finally decide you need to go to therapy. I think therapy's good for anybody, any time of life, any situation, even if it's just like, hey, I'm doing pretty good, but it might be useful to have somebody I can go talk to just for some self-care maintenance type stuff. So definitely utilize therapy if you can. Number 12, plan for the future. Consider your child's long-term needs, such as education and healthcare. Start planning and saving for the future as early as possible. Again, they kind of talked about this earlier when it comes to finances and planning. We're just going to have to do the best that we can with that, with what we have and the resources we have and the money that we have. Because yes, we would like to do all that, but we also got to pay the rent and buy groceries, which aren't cheap anymore, and do all the things. And so just do your best that you can with that, but also just remember that is important. Number 13, I like this one. Let me read this one. Maintain a positive outlook and focus on the strengths and successes of your family. Your attitude can influence your child's well-being. I like that one. 13's good. Yes, our attitude can impact so much. Yes, for our kid, as this said, but even for ourselves. Like, striving for positivity in our life is huge and super healthy, because it's really easy, again, as a single parent, to just think about how tired we are and how stressed we are and how much the other parent can suck sometimes and how little money we have and all that stuff. And again, a lot of that stuff might be true, but there can be a lot of other great things about our context that we should just think about sometimes and point out sometimes, like the fact that our kids are doing well, like the fact that you are making it through the day, even though it might have been hard, you made it, and that takes some strength, like the fact that you do have some good friends and family who can come around and support you. So I really like number 13. That was good. Here we go. Number 14, date carefully. If you decide to date or introduce a new partner to your child, do so cautiously and ensure that your child's well-being remains a priority. Yeah, we talked about that a few episodes ago. I talked about the fact that I've noticed that people will be co-parenting well, mom and dad getting along, soccer games together, communications well, but then mom or dad will start dating somebody and then things kind of fall apart. You know, they don't want to be next to each other at the games anymore. They don't want to communicate. The girlfriend or boyfriend start overstepping. Then it doesn't become about the kid anymore. It becomes about, the relationship and it just turns into a mess. So number 14 is good. So last but not least, it says celebrate achievements. Recognize and celebrate your and your child's achievements, no matter how small. This can boost self-esteem and motivation. That's good. Yeah, as I said, it could be really easy to kind of get caught up on all the stuff of being a single parent, but there could be some major W's throughout the journey. So like my daughter, for example, she's learning how to read right now. She's like going to be 7 next month, I think. And so she's learning how to read. And so some major W's that I've seen is just the time where I get to sit down with her for 15 minutes for her homework, and she has to read some pages of a book, and we're able to work through it together. And then the next day she comes back and reads the same thing, but she gets a little bit better, and then she gets better and better and better until now she's, reading a whole page almost by herself. And so it's really cool to be able to slow down and to be a part of that process with her and see her grow. And I know that might be a little thing, but as I said, like, it's cool to look at those little things sometimes, so that way we're not just bogged down by the stress and bogged down by all the negative things, but we do see a lot of the cool W's that we get to experience in our day. And then it wraps up with this paragraph: remember, every single parent family is unique, and what works for one might not work for another. Tailor your approach to your specific circumstances and the needs of your child. Don't hesitate to seek advice and support from professionals and others who have experience in single parenting. You're not alone, and there are resources available to help you navigate this journey successfully. So far, I would say that ChatGPT is dropping some gold. Like, a lot of these points are pretty good. Some of them might be kind of obvious and things we've talked about a lot here on the show, and that's fine, because They're things that we talked about and are good to talk about for a reason. But yeah, I've liked a lot of these things that it's had to say so far. So the last question I asked it was, what would you have to say to those listening to a podcast specifically for single parents? ChatGPT, what would you like to say to those listening to the Single Parents podcast? And here's what it had to say. Listening to a podcast for single parents can be a valuable source of information, inspiration, and support. Here's what I would say to somebody tuning in. That's you. What does ChatGPT have to say to you? Number one, you're not alone. One of the most reassuring aspects of listening to this podcast is the reminder that you're not alone. Many people face the challenges of single parenting, and hearing their stories can help you feel less isolated. Yes, we are a community here. So far, so good. I like it. Number two, learn from others. Podcasts often feature real stories and expert advice. I don't know if I'd consider myself an expert, but I'm a real life single dad doing this thing. So maybe use this as an opportunity to learn from others who have walked a similar path and gain insights into effective parenting strategies. Number three, take what's relevant. Not every piece of advice or every story will apply to your situation. Choose the tips and insights that resonate with your unique circumstances. So ignore Anthony when he says something and you're just like, I don't need to hear that. But maybe listen when I make up a good point or two. I would hope, and vice versa. This is why we want you to use the email, use social media, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that I could hear from you and learn from you as well. So we definitely want this to be a two-way street. Number four, self-care matters. Many podcasts for single parents stress the importance of self-care. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's necessary for being the best parent you can be. Seek professional help when needed. Podcasts can provide valuable advice, but they are not a substitute for professional guidance. If you're facing specific challenges, don't hesitate to seek assistance from a therapist or counselor. It's true, like we say a lot of good stuff, but I'm not a licensed therapist. For legal purposes, I hope that you all know that. And so if you need professional help, definitely seek that out. Number six, find a community. Listening to a single parent podcast can be a stepping stone to finding a broader community. Consider joining local support groups or online forums where you can connect with other single parents. Stay open-minded. Be open to new ideas and different perspectives. Sometimes a fresh approach or a new perspective can lead to a breakthrough in your parenting journey. For sure, which is why we need different voices and different experiences on this show, because it does help open our mind to different things and different circumstances that other people might be going through. Number eight, celebrate your achievements. Don't forget to celebrate your success and milestones, no matter how small. Parenting is tough, and recognizing your accomplishments is essential for maintaining a positive attitude. Number nine, apply what you've learned. When you hear useful advice or tips on a podcast, try to apply them in your daily life. Experiment with different strategies to see what works best for you and your child. And last but not least for this whole thing, keep listening. Consistency in listening to the podcast can provide ongoing motivation and support. Continue to tune in regularly to stay informed and inspired. Yes. Basically what it's saying, hit that subscribe button, stick around, be a part of this thing. Let's go. I love that one. It's probably my favorite piece of advice from this whole conversation. I like it. And then it finally wraps up with this one last paragraph that says, ultimately, the key is to use the podcast as a resource to complement your journey as a single parent. It can be a source of guidance, empathy, and encouragement, helping you to navigate the unique challenges and joys of single parenthood. And boom, there we go. ChatGPT ending it with some fire. I truly do hope throughout all of this that we're doing here that that's exactly what this show can be in your life, is a true point of guidance, encouragement, community, all those things in your own single parent journey. If you are a single parent listening to this, because it can be lonely, it can be rough, it can feel like you're the only person in the world going through these struggles, because with social media out there, like showing everybody's like highlights and everybody's getting married and everybody's doing this and everybody has money and all this, I can just feel like you're kind of like an alien, right? You're the odd man out or the odd woman out. But I truly do want this show to be a light in the middle of all that, that just reminds you that you're not alone and you do have a good, family here that can have your back and can remind you every single week just to keep doing the best that you can. Well, there you go. That's what AI has to say about the single parent life. I hope that at least one or two of those points might have been encouraging to you, giving you something to think about, giving you something to shake your head to and be like, yeah, I get that. A lot of those points are things we've talked about on the show already, but there is some good points in there that I do want to dive more into in the future, get a little deep on, kind of expand the conversation a little bit more. I think it's good. So it was interesting to kind of hear all of that. It's interesting to kind of hear some of those perspectives. At least that's how it was for me. How was it for you? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your response to hearing all that from ChatGPT. Use the email, use social media, do all the things, and let's keep the conversation going. All right, everybody. Well, with that, that's going to get ready to do it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. I'm going to go read your guys' suggestions on what I should be for Halloween and start putting my costume together, because time, I don't have a watch on, but I'm pointing to my wrist to signify the fact that time is ticking. So I should probably get on that. So I'm going to go do that. Everybody else, I just hope that you have a fantastic week. Have fun with your kids out there. Be safe. We'll see you next time. And don't forget, you all just keep doing the best you can. Bye. Happy Halloween.
Let's go.